assuming Farage becomes prime minister, which is not unthinkable by any means, the way the world is going. It's good for you guys, right? It's good for people who do satire and attack politicians and make fun of them?
I think it is good, providing he remains within a tradition which is fairly strong in Britain, is that you are meant to laugh at those who offer satire and criticism. I mean, you may not like it very much, but in Britain you have to pretend to.
Yeah.
This is a long political tradition. Our problem at Private Eye is a certain amount of political interference, but more it is the problems of libel. It's the courts.
Yeah.
And that is where my real expertise comes in, because I have fought 42 libel actions.
How many have you lost?
Thank you. How many
have you lost?
Ask me how many I've won.
Yes?
One.
Which one? But some of them were quite extraordinary. Remember, the Yorkshire Ripper's wife sued you and won.
Yes, which again gives some idea of how popular I am as a figure. Other people, it's celebrities, television people. I lost to the wife of a serial killer. And I lost what then was a record amount of money. I lost £600,000, which was the damages. What's that in rupees?
Economists in the audience, right? 5 crores? 5 crores, yeah.
Is it more than a taxi from the Marriott?
A little bit, yes.
So I lost this staggering amount of money, and there was £700,000 costs, and essentially I bankrupt the magazine in one day in court. And this is what you asked earlier. Yeah. I think it's the only quote of mine that will survive after I'm dead. I came out of court, and I was so angry. There was a bank of reporters and photographers, and I said, well, if that's justice, and I couldn't think of anything. So I said, if that's justice, I'm a banana. Which unfortunately then sort of went down in all the books. And I'm often asked to explain it, and it doesn't mean anything.
But it's a good quote, though.
It was a good quote, and it meant that we could set up a fund, which is the other business model which I think I've invented, which is we make terrible mistakes and lose money, and the readers pay.
But do you actually raise a lot of money from these public appeals?
We did. We raised a lot of money for that, and I have to say there is a happy ending in that we went to the appeal court, and the damages were brought down to 60,000. They were cut in by a tenth. The point was conceded, and the law essentially for juries to just make up any amount that was in their head was changed. So it had a vaguely happy ending, and we gave all the money to the victims of the serial killer. So it was virtue signaling on a grand scale.
Well, it was a good thought, right? But I wanted to ask you about defamation, because we're always being told, I'm looking at it only from a journalist's perspective, that be careful, you'll get sued. But on the whole, people who sue and win tend to be A, rich because they can afford to sue, and B, usually guilty, right?
Yes, I would say that's entirely true, because you've mentioned no names.
All right, so tell us about Robert Maxwell.
Yes, the other people you can mention are largely dead.
Mohamed Al Fayed is alive or dead?
Sorry?
Is Al Fayed alive?
Mohamed Al Fayed is dead.
Okay, you can say what you like now, then.
I can say what I like about him, and it eventually turned out not only his corruption and his predatory behavior to young women, but they spent a lot of time in court fighting Mohamed Al Fayed. I once did a talk rather like this, and a boy stood up and he said, would it embarrass you to know that I am related to Mohamed Al Fayed? And I said, I'm not related to him, I'm not embarrassed. So he was in court a lot. Robert Maxwell was a big media owner. He owned the Daily Mirror. He was a British member of Parliament. He was an incredibly rich and powerful man and deeply corrupt. And he sued me on numerous occasions And the last occasion he sued, Private Eye suggested that he'd been stealing money from his own pension fund, and therefore essentially stripping all his workers of their pension in life. He sued, and he would have won. But fortunately, he didn't, because he drowned. And I know that sounds callous, which it's meant to. But we got into some trouble because we put a picture of his funeral on the cover, which is not in terribly good taste.
What did you say on the cover?
The headstone said, "Here lies Robert Maxwell," and I said, well, he lied everywhere else.
And you were vindicated. The allegations that Private Eye made, then it was found to be true after he died. The pension fund stealing, etc.
He had stolen £11 million off his pensioners. It took 10 years for them trying to sue to get their recompense. And it was an absolutely classic case of we did make the right call and we were slightly lucky. But he was a sort of a very, very aggressive bullying man. And he had what we thought was just endless reserves. And that is a problem with the very, very rich.
Yeah.
The only way to essentially fight a libel action against someone that rich is to make them think you are madder than them, and that you don't care, and you'll fight it.
It's hard.
I mean, sorry, I'm
no, go ahead.
interrupting you, but there's a lawyer's firm in Britain called Peter Carter Ruck.
Oh dear, okay. Go ahead, sir.
And they sue us all the time. And originally, when I started about 30 years ago, we decided it'd be quite funny if every week there was a misprint. So instead of it saying Peter Carter Ruck, an F appeared where the R should be. And we thought this joke was very funny for about 10 years. And eventually Peter Carter Ruck, who's a very distinguished London solicitor, he rang me up and he said, "You are pathetic. I do not want to appear in your stupid little magazine as Peter Carter Fuck." And I said, "Absolutely, Peter, it will not happen again." So the next week, he was Peter Farter Cuck. It is very grown-up stuff at Private Eye.
He was also regularly called the world's worst libel lawyer in your publication.
He was,
yes.
Which was a bit rich given that he did win a lot.
That's right, yeah.
We finally won a case against them. And one of his top men had said, "You're going to lose this case, and I am going to buy myself a red Ferrari." That was his lawyer. And they lost the case, and we bought him a dinky toy red Ferrari. So it is possible. But again, they were... we're doing a debate about free speech tonight, and I was threatened with jail by the Attorney General, who's the sort of government's lawyer, for contempt of court, which essentially is a charge suggesting that you think the court is incompetent and will come to the wrong decision.
Yeah.
And fortunately, in a lower court, a very, very wise judge, Justice Popplewell, decided I was innocent. Could have fooled me, but... and that was marvellous, but the Attorney General decided that he would appeal the case. This was a national emergency. And so I was tried again by the appeal court, and the Attorney General asked for a 2-year committal. He wanted me inside for 2 years. And the 3 judges, I think, had been watching reality TV, and Britain's Got Talent and Dancing with the Stars, because the main judge said, "We have considered the Attorney General's request, and our verdict is..." And then there was just silence. And they ramped up the tension. And I had my toothbrush in my pocket, and my wife was pregnant. She was in the front row looking desperate. And this pause went on for about 2.5 minutes, and he said, "We have decided to issue you with a fine." And then they said, "If you're brought in front of us for contempt again, you are in real trouble."
How much was the fine?
The fine was £20,000.
Which is better than going to jail, but still a lot of money, right?
Yes, and I had some vague romantic fantasy that there was a British editor called Lee Hunt who edited a newspaper from jail rather successfully,
Yeah.
and I thought I could become him. But then I thought, no, I'd much rather keep out. So there is a risk, and Rupert Murdoch, who, you know, is another proprietor who has a certain record with us, there was a court case involving phone tapping and whether his organisation had acted badly and irresponsibly with celebrities and the royal family. And on the first day of the trial, his chief executive, Rebecca Brooks, who was on trial, it was Halloween, and we put her on the front cover saying this was a new Halloween outfit, that she would scare your children if you put this on. And unfortunately, this was day one of the trial. And during a trial, you're not really meant to suggest that the defendant is a Halloween queen. So the contempt charge came up again.
And?
I offered a particularly fine defence.
Which was?
That she wasn't that scary.
But she was, actually, wasn't she?
She was incredibly scary. She was
Yeah.
wearing a sort of Puritan outfit. Anyway, she was found innocent as chief executive. The editor of the paper, who she was having an affair with, was guilty. But she was innocent. I'd like you all to remember that in case you're ever asked by a policeman.